The Orders Pronatus have the responsibility of maintaining and blessing the many banners and symbols of the Orders militant. They have even been called upon to reconsecrate the livery of other imperial bodies, as was the case when they repaired the chapter banner of the Lamentus chapter of the Adeptus Astartes after its involvement in the Badab uprising. It is said that the Sisters Pronatus who repaired the banner wept openly as they did so. So terrible to contemplate were the sins of the Lamenters. To this day, the standard is known as the Banner of Tears. The Adeptus Astartes forged the path of salvation, emancipation, and redemption for the waning Imperium. Forged from the Emperor's sanctified will, armed with his greatest weapons, and clad in his divine protection, there are no warriors more revered as his angels. Yet among their ranks, one such chapter stands as the most tragic disciples of their warrior creed, and despite their best efforts, prove to be the recipients of unrelenting sorrow. The long-suffering sons of the great angel, the Lamenters. Among the chapters of the Adeptus Astartes, there are none more intimately familiar with misfortune and strife. Founded during the 36th millennium as one of the so-called cursed founding chapters, alongside the Minotaurs, Sons of Antaeus, Firehawks, Flame Falcons, Blood Gorgons, and Black Dragons. The attribution of such a maligned founding was not made lightly. The Black Dragons had produced mutations within their genetic code, causing their bones to mutate into sharpened appendages, whilst the Blood Gorgons had been declared excommunicate traitoris only 6 decades into their service. Seeking to remove the genetic flaws and deficiencies within the genetic code of each chapter to which the founding was derived, the Lamenters would be no exception. The noble lineage of the Blood Angels, though venerated, had nonetheless drawn censure and scrutiny by the Imperium for their bloodthirsty rampages caused by their successors. Removing the curse of both the Red Thirst and Black Rage from their genetic coding, the meddling of the Mechanicus, though successful in diminishing one curse, would engender another. Steeped in a palpable aura of misfortune, the Lamenters, despite their virtuous nature, would forever endure an endless slew of unfortunate events. Shunned by their fellow Astartes due to their recorded campaigns costing the lives of their own kin and allies alike in excess of even their junior chapter peers, the crestfallen sons of Sanguinius, through no fault of their own, have never achieved salvation from their plight. As the remainder of the cursed founding chapters spread dissent and unrest throughout the galaxy, the Lamenters chose to distance themselves from such turmoil and departed to the fringes of space. Roaming as a fleet-based chapter, the Lamenters sought to prevent their involvement from costly civil wars and political quagmires. Serving for over a millennium as stalwart warriors of the Emperor, the Lamenters faced Xenos threats throughout the western fringe of the Imperium, in their efforts to defend humanity. Earning an enviable and reputed record of victories, battle honors, and relief efforts, regardless of their plaudits, the Astartes of the Lamenters could never prevent catastrophe from rearing its ugly head. Their first noted crusade, the Siege of Corilla of Abaddon the Despoiler's 9th Black Crusade during 537.M38, required every able-bodied crusading chapter to aid in repelling the War Master's forces. Fighting alongside the Mortifactus chapter, the Sons of Guilliman refused outright to stand alongside the Lamenters and abandoned Corilla to prevent further ruin. Standing alone against the Black Legion, the Lamenters fought a desperate battle for 6 weeks, incurring horrendous losses. Reinforced by the White Scars and Ultramarines chapters, only 200 Lamenters survived their defiant stand against the Despoiler. Traversing through the warp, Imperial records would deem the chapter lost, with no hope of renewal, yet be shocked to receive reports of their beleaguered fleet returning to real space 1 century following their disappearance. Slowly rebuilding their fleet and chapter numbers until their replenishment during the millennia to follow, the Lamenters now patrol the galactic core to fight and die far from the populace of humanity. Yet with the petition for aid by the High Lords of Terra during 587.M41, a threat required opposing within the Maelstrom zone of the galaxy. The second largest warp rift known to Imperial space, this naturally occurring rend in the galaxy had proven to be a nest of chaos spawn and heretical filth, exceeded in strength only by the denizens of the Eye of Terror. Requiring guardians to prevent the spill of corruption from spreading across the Imperium, a founding of chapters were required to stand vigil upon the precipice of the Great Legion. Assembling the Lamenters, Mantis Warriors, and the renowned Astral Claws chapter as their leaders, the Maelstrom Warders would be tasked with patrolling the expanse of the Maelstrom's western proximity to best oppose piratical raids and chaos incursions. Taking to their appointment with pride and zealous fervor, the Lamenters with years of service would form a strong bond of camaraderie with their Warder's senior officer and chapter master of the Astral Claws, Luft Huron. Offered respect and honor, unlike to so many of their previous alliances with other Astartes chapters, the compassion of the Astral Claws would prove their undoing in the years to follow. Aiding in joint campaigns on occasion, such as the Caradon campaign of 698.M41 alongside the Ultramarines, Angels of Absolution, Silver Skulls, and Marines Errant, and the Corinth Crusade of 701.M41, the Lamenters dealing with the chapter master of the 13th, Marneus Calgar, earned their chapter great renown and repute for their deeds. Freeing 3 million enslaved souls from the oppression of the Orc Xenos, the Lamenters once more gave their lives dearly to save the civilian populace of the planet of Slaughterhouse Free. Though succumbing to their long-repressed black rage, the Lamenters still remaining in a sane state would be forced to detonate seismic charges to collapse the underground tunnels of Slaughterhouse Free, causing the deaths of millions of the human slaves. Understanding of their duty, the prisoners uttered a prayer to the Emperor as the rubble collapsed on top of them, for they would die as free men and women, emancipated from their greenskin jailers. Crippling the Orc clan's infrastructure, though considered a great victory by the Imperium, the Lamenters' successful campaign soured with their knowledge of the many deaths incurred through their intervention. Refusing to accept a gift of an Iron Halo by Marneus Calgar as recognition for their deeds, the Lamenters, though accused of great insult by the Crusade's commanding officers, would receive no bad blood from the Lord of Ultramar. However, even in the wake of hundreds of their men and millions of their charges lost to the flames of such a terrible war, the tribulations of the Lamenters had only just begun. During 901.M41, Luft Huron, chapter master of the Astral Claws, would secede the Maelstrom Warders from the Imperium. Upholding the autonomous nature of the Adeptus Astartes above even the authority of the High Lords of Terra, the hubris of the Tyrant of Badab would not go unpunished. Seeking to lead a crusade to cleanse the Maelstrom once and for all of its corrupted denizens, Huron's command saw to the end of tithes to the Imperium in materials and resources, in order to fuel his ambitions to purge the Warp Rift. Allied with the Mantis Warriors, Executioners and Lamenters, as loyalist chapters such as the Firehawks, Salamanders, Fire Angels, Nova Marines, Red Scorpions, Exorcists, Howling Griffins, Marines Errant, Raptors, Sons of Medusa, Minotaurs, Carcharodons, and Star Phantoms entered the fray. The next 12 years of conflict proved to be the greatest stain of dishonor the Lamenters chapter could ever hope to achieve. Incurring massive casualties whilst fighting against the Minotaurs chapter, the Lamenters surrendered from the war during 908.M41 to prevent their chapter's extinction. Only 311 Astartes in number, each surviving member of the chapter would be imprisoned within the prison hulk of Sagan II for the remainder of the war. Brought before the Constitutorial Court and put on trial for their crimes, the Lamenters for their actions received the judgment of 5 chapter masters of the Astartes whom had not partaken in the conflict. According to Astartes tradition, the Lamenters, once found guilty for being found in breach of the outlines of the Codex Astartes and broken their covenant with the Emperor, must endure a penitent crusade. Pride had been their downfall, not treachery, and as a result the Lamenters had been given an opportunity to redeem themselves in the eyes of their Space Marine kin. For 100 years, the Lamenters must earn the forgiveness of the Master of Mankind by undertaking campaigns across the stars against his enemies, with no replenishment of their numbers nor support from the Imperium. Their fate left in the hands of the Emperor, the Adeptus Sororitas mended their tattered and broken battle standard and saw to its purification as they embarked on their quest for redemption. Openly weeping as they mended the banner of the Lamenters, such was their purity that as they weaved the fabric to its former glory, the Sisters of Battle did contemplate the Emperor's great sacrifice in the name of humanity, and did truly know the terrible depths of the sin the Lamenters had wrought. Embarking upon their penitent crusade, the Lamenters fight with unrelenting yet remorseful fury as the weight of their past crimes pushes them to breaking point. The shame of their failures to protect the innocent, defend the Imperium, and embody the Emperor's holy will, the Lamenters seek out their duty to absolve themselves of sin despite their endless misfortune. Combating the Tyranid High Fleet Kraken during the Second Tyrannic War of 992.M41, the Lamenters could not hope to face a more deadly foe at such depleted numbers. Slowing the advance of the Great Devourer, their last stand upon the planet of Malvolion allowed for many Imperial citizens to escape at the cost of more lives sacrificed for their honor. Barely 4 whole companies of the chapter remained as the chapter continued to face High Fleet Kraken for a further year of conflict. Aiding the Red Hunters chapter during their battles against Kraken, the task force assigned to track the Lamenters' progress in their crusade suffered heavy losses alongside their calamitous allies. Reduced further to 3 battle companies during 999.M41, the Lord Commander of the Imperium Nihilus, Dante, would call upon the Lamenters for aid. The Tyranid menace and forces of the Ruinous Powers sought to destroy the homeworld of their primogenitor chapter, the Blood Angels, and would require every successor of the Blood to prevent its devastation. Yet among all chapters of the Blood, the Lamenters, by virtue of their depleted numbers, abstained from aiding their brothers in arms. The only Blood Angel successor, absent from its founder's direst hour of need, the Lamenters have further fractured their standing with their closest allies. And in these dark times, none can be certain if such a beleaguered and lamentable chapter is capable of surviving further losses. During their service as a fully replenished chapter, the Lamenters bore a unique tradition among the warriors of the Blood. Seemingly unshackled from the flaws of the Red First and Black Rage, their compliance to the Codex Astartes in principle allowed for the chapter to be exemplars of the optimal potential of each successor of the Ninth Legion. Ascribing to the Codex's outlines of 100 Astartes per battle company, during their peak strength, the chapter comprised of 4 battle companies and 1 company of veterans, Devastator Reserves, Tactical Reserves, Assault Reserves, and Scouts. Experts at flexible battlefield deployments, combining their forces into effective strike forces, the Lamenters champion practicality above all virtues of war. Recruiting their aspirants from feudal worlds and distant colonies prior to their penitent crusade, as a fleet-based chapter, the Lamenters do not favor a single world or its populace as a means to draw fresh recruits. Fighting without direct support from Imperial forces for much of their service, their independent nature has instilled within them a self-reliant reputation, uncommon for a Codex-compliant chapter. Favoring shock assault tactics such as drop pod assaults with close air support, the chapter's reliance on Thunderhawk gunships and Storm Ravens facilitate predictable yet effective tactics. Their panoplies of war more alike to a Codex-compliant chapter than that of their own lineage as Sons of Sanguinius, the chapter retains few relics or cultural trappings from the culture of Baal. Their command hierarchy incorporating the sanguinary priesthood of the chapter, these chaplains are known as the Calyx by their peers. Monitoring their kin for signs of the Red First or Black Rage, though the chapter has recently founded a death company, it is rare for such damned souls to fill its ranks. Integral for the spiritual well-being of this tormented chapter, it is not hyperbole to state that without the Calyx, the Lamenters chapter would have surrendered to their woes long ago. The gene seed of the chapter, though adapted to diminish the effects of their gene curse, is little understood by the genitors of the Imperium. an alluring prospect for the Scions of the Blood to alleviate their suffering. Such experimentation's likely mutation of their inherited curse into one arguably far worse has prevented future study and experimentation. Seen as a necessary characteristic of their creed by the Astartes such as the Flesh Tearers, to remove the imprecation of their bloodline is to court with disaster. Seen by their kin as damned souls unable to redeem themselves from their fell adversity, the temperament and idiosyncrasies of the Lamenters Astartes seem unfavourable to even the most troubled angels of the blood. For it is said that among the Lamenters, the grief of the loss of their Primarch is felt more keenly than any of their peers, which as a result casts a melancholic pall throughout their ranks. Clad in gleaming yellow armour, the symbol of their chapter, a bleeding heart upon a black and white checkerboard design, is worn solemnly upon their left pauldron. Their squad specialty, whether it be battle line, close support, fire support, veteran or command staff, is worn on their right pauldron, a white low Gothic numeral centered upon their symbol to identify their squad number. The color of their left knee plate indicates their company, as is outlined by the Codex Astartes. Each color is identical to the conventions of the Codex. A sight of salvation to the naive of the Imperium, and a foreboding warning to their veteran allies, the Lamenters, though valiant in their intentions, bring both hope and despair in their wake. Harbingers of bitter victories and glorious defeats, regardless of their continued misfortune, they shall never falter in their duty to carry their burden without apprehension or rejection of the Emperor's will. For it is believed by their current chapter master, Malakim Foros, that with every tribulation they endure, they shall overcome and grow stronger from its temperance. And it is the hope of the Imperium that such posturing is not proven to be mistaken. For those we cherish, we die in glory. This has been a tale of the Great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. The Lamenters, though cursed by inexorable struggle, are among the most valiant defenders of humanity. For though each of their deeds is marked by grief, despair, and loss, never forget that each time there are those who survive and escape the clutches of their tragic sacrifice. Never forego hope in the direst of circumstance, for with its absence, only ashes remain. And a glimmer of hope, even in the darkest of moments, can be the catalyst for salvation.